You know, if there's one thing that's been pretty remarkably consistent ever since Donald Trump got sworn in as the 47th president, it's that Republicans are showing up to their town halls all across the country and getting absolutely torn to shreds by their own constituents. Now, Republicans are going to try to lie to you and say that, oh, it's just a whole bunch of paid protesters, whole bunch of paid agitators, oh, just a whole bunch of crazy Democrats who are showing up to our town halls and trying to make us look bad, because these people are unwilling to deal with reality on reality's terms, and they just do not want to accept the fact that their constituents are actually pissed off. It's even got so bad, like we've talked about before, that Republicans have even issued guidance saying that maybe you guys shouldn't do these town halls because maybe it is, in fact, making us look bad. So I will give a little bit of credit to Mike Lawler, the so-called moderate Republican from New York, who showed up to one of his town halls with a whole list of rules, mind you, but he did show up and he took questions from his constituents like a Congress member should. And instead of focusing on what Mike Lawler had to say, I want to take a look at what the constituents had to say, because there's been a whole lot of things that people can complain about, but we are seeing some through lines as far as people's discontent with this administration. Let's go ahead and kick things off with this clip where Mike Lawler is asked about the authoritarianism that is very apparent in this Trump administration and what he is going to do to stop it. If you guys do appreciate my work, please do remember to subscribe.
Opportunity. So you describe yourself as a moderate, yet you support all of the policies that this authoritarian administration is putting forth, including tax cuts for the corporations and the ultra-wealthy, the tariffs that are going to make everything more expensive for us, kidnapping and deporting 2-year-olds who have cancer and sending them off. So my question to you, none of this is helping us. We're getting hurt. We in the community are being harmed by this. What are you doing to stand in opposition to this administration, and what specifically are you doing that warrants the label moderate?
So again, my record speaks for itself. I have been rated the 4th most bipartisan for a reason, which is a very simple fact, that unlike many of my colleagues, I actually do work across the aisle. I actually do sit down with my colleagues. There's not a single local elected official who can honestly say that I have not sat down with them and worked with them regardless of their party. There's not a single one of my Democratic colleagues in the Congress who could say that I don't do that. When it comes to, folks, if you want me to answer the questions, let the question be asked and then listen to the answer. If you're just going to yell back and forth, the time is going to run pretty quick.
This is a pretty common refrain from these Republicans. When they get called out to their face, they like to snap back at the crowd. But these people are asking genuine questions. And just because you call yourself bipartisan and you work on a bipartisan basis all the time, doesn't mean that you're a moderate. Donald Trump is a wannabe authoritarian. He is a fascist. And you have supported many of the things that he is doing. So just because you can work across the aisle and maybe you can come to some sort of agreement with some Democrats does not mean that you are a moderate. This person is absolutely right to call you out. You want to say that you're this big moderate, Republican, but then you go support Donald Trump on 90% of the crap that he is doing. And he specifically, you'll notice, he didn't answer to the question that was actually asked. What about the authoritarianism displayed by the Trump administration? What are you going to do to stand in the way of Donald Trump rounding up innocent people, even 2-year-olds, and then shipping them out of the country without any due process at all? What are you going to do about the tariffs that Donald Trump is unilaterally implementing just because he has a weird infatuation with them? What are you going to do about all of those things? And you'll notice that, of course, Mike Lawler has no answer. He needs to have an answer for these things, especially since he is in a swing district in New York. These are very valid questions, and people are rightfully concerned that we are heading down a path to dictatorship with this new Trump administration. These people just, Again, they do not want to contend with reality on reality's terms. Let's go ahead and move on to this question, where he's being asked about Pete Hegseth and how somebody, so careless could be at the top of the DOD. But then Lawler turns it around and tries to talk about Afghanistan.
When it comes to the military, in the last administration, Secretary Austin oversaw the disastrous withdrawal in Afghanistan that resulted in the death of 13 U.S. service members. And if you do not believe that there should be accountability for that, if you do not believe there should be accountability for military operations, then why are we demanding a resignation based on a communication? The communication itself should not have occurred.
I mean, what is this dude talking about? He was asked whether or not he would call for the resignation of Pete Hegseth, because as we have seen, Pete Hegseth is just a careless individual, and he is putting American lives at risk because he is sharing classified information in a third-party messaging app. And he did it not only once, but he got caught twice. So we should definitely be calling for the resignation of Pete Hegseth. But instead of talking about any of that, Mike Lawler flips it on Afghanistan and says, oh, well, if you don't want anybody held accountable for military operations with Afghanistan, then what do we do? That is not an appropriate answer. And do these people forget that it was Donald Trump's plan that Joe Biden just carried out? It was Trump. Did I get that wrong? It was Donald Trump's plan that Joe Biden carried out, right? It was Donald Trump who put all of those things in motion, and Joe Biden is the person who had the cojones to actually follow through and get us out of Afghanistan. Does that mean that the withdrawal went perfectly? Absolutely not. We lost 13 soldiers, and that was an absolute tragedy. But just because that happened doesn't mean that you need to redirect the conversation when somebody asks you about the current Department of Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, who is putting lives at risk because he is so damn reckless. That's not an appropriate answer there, Mike Lawler. You need to do better. Let's go ahead and move on to this question, where he's asked about the Trump administration deporting children without any due process.
On Friday, this administration deported 3 children, ages 2, 4, and 7, who are U.S. citizens. The 4-year-old with a rare form of metastatic cancer receiving treatment and deported, without medication, and all without consultation with their families, attorneys, or physician. All of the families were complying with law, a routine check-in, only to be detained and then deported. These continuing illegal actions by the administration cannot be tolerated by Congress, but you said you are not concerned with authoritarianism, since there are 3 equal branches of government on the Brian Lehrer show on Friday when I heard you. You're consistently seen as a bipartisan member of Congress, but your actions speak louder than your words. When will you uphold and adhere to the Constitution? Where is your line on all of these illegal actions? Do you want to be known? Hold on. Do you want to be known? Do you want to be known as Mike Lawler or Mike?
Now, the reason I show you this clip is because this is something that we are hearing all across the country. People are concerned with the authoritarian impulses of this new administration. We have a Trump who is rounding up innocent people. He's stripping their due process rights away and then shipping them off to a gulag down in El Salvador. And when the Supreme Court steps in and says, hey, you need to facilitate the return of somebody like Kilmar Abrego Garcia, Donald Trump is just ignoring the court. And Congress is nowhere to be found on any of this. None of them will even stand up and say that, hey, Donald Trump shouldn't be defying the Supreme Court. It is absolutely insane. You cannot call yourself a moderate when you have removed your backbone and become completely subservient to Donald Trump and are unwilling to do whatever you can to stop these illegal deportations. And what we just learned late last week, I think it was, that the Trump administration did this exact same thing and deported 2 3-year-olds to Honduras without any due process, without any meaningful process at all. And that was coming from a Trump-appointed judge who said that. These people are pathetic. We are seeing lawlessness throughout this entire administration. They are doing things that no other president has ever done before. They are flouting our rules. They're flouting our laws. They're flouting our norms. And if anybody stands in their way to try to check their power or hold them accountable for the things that they are doing, Donald Trump just throws a fit like a petulant child. And these people are just standing by watching him do it. Again, these people are pathetic. And this common question that we are hearing all across the country is a legitimate question. They have to have better answers for this authoritarianism. We have not seen a good one yet from any of these Republicans. Let's go ahead and move on to this one, where the constituent is concerned that America has pretty much lost its place in the world.
I'd like to know what your thoughts are on the fact that the United States in the last 100 days has suffered a terrible loss of pride. People are just ashamed of their country. And when I want to go to Europe and I'm told, well, you can, but you know, people hate you there now. And even in Canada, I think it's a terrible thing that has happened. I'd like your opinion. And the other question is, as part of that, is the fact that we are now not supporting Ukraine. And I'd like to have your opinion on the withdrawal of all our funds.
So, on the issue of America's standing in the world, we're going to strongly agree to disagree. The fact is, after 4 years of Joe Biden's foreign policy, America and the world are in the most precarious place since the lead up to World War II.
These people are absolutely pathetic. Mike Lawler goes on to list all of the conflicts, the Russia-Ukraine war, the attack by Hamas. He lists all of these things and tries to tie that back to the Biden administration somehow. These people are pathetic. They take any opportunity they can to try to blame everything they can on the Biden administration. But the constituents' question was very clear. America has taken 17 steps back in the world. We are aligning with Russia. We have pretty much abandoned Ukraine. We are treating our other allies like they are our enemies. Donald Trump is doing tariffs on again, off again, on again, off again, on again. He has shattered trading relationships all around the world. Our allies can no longer trust us. Our other trading partners can no longer trust us. And we have more uncertainty in our economic markets than we have seen since what? The Great Depression? And this guy wants to talk about how the world was in a precarious place because of Joe Biden. Again, these people are pathetic. And you cannot call yourself a moderate when you look around and try to blame everything on Biden, even though Trump's unilateral actions is what is responsible for our current retreat in the world. You cannot tell me that Donald Trump has not done so much brand damage to the United States of America. That is just an insane stance to take. That means that you are not living in reality, or you are not willing to criticize your cult leader. Those are the only two options. These people are a disgrace. Let's go ahead and move on to this one last clip. Because this guy rightfully points out all of the corruption in this new Trump administration.
All right. The emoluments clause is designed to ensure that public officials prioritize the interests of U.S. citizens and they don't have personal gain or foreign influence. President Trump now has his own cryptocurrency. The government has no idea who's putting money in, who's taking money out. They don't know who the individuals are or the governments are. He makes money on every investment trade.
Sir, please put your phone
He has his own social media platform that financially benefits him when he exclusively posts on it in order to increase members, bring attention to which increases his revenues. Not to mention the gold watches, the Bibles, the $2 billion from the Saudis, close, the $2 billion for his son-in-law. If this was the Biden administration, you'd be demanding a hearing. So why are we not demanding a hearing?
So, obviously, when the Democrats took control of Congress during the first administration, they did do numerous hearings on this.
That is not an answer to the question, Mike. And I really like the way that this guy frames it. Donald Trump is involved in all of this corruption, a wide array of corruption. And you know, if this was the Biden administration, you guys would be doing hearing after hearing after hearing after hearing. I mean, look at James Comer trying to connect all of these crazy dots to Hunter Biden and Joe Biden's brother and Joe Biden. It was an absolute shit show, all based on innuendo. There was no real evidence at all of any corruption that was going on there. But they spent, 4 years trying to dig into all of that, and now you've got a president of the United States who launched a meme coin the day before inauguration and has fleeced thousands of his supporters out of billions of dollars. And now he just announced that I think the top 200 holders of his meme coin is going to be able to have a dinner with him. I mean, the grift is unreal. And let's not forget, each time a trade is made with that meme coin, the Trump himself gets to collect some of those transaction fees. He's already made hundreds of millions of dollars from the meme coin itself. And that is just one piece of the corruption. The question is valid. And instead of trying to own up to what Donald Trump is doing, instead of maybe criticizing Donald Trump and all of his corrupt actions, he wants to turn it around and say, oh, well, the Democrats did a whole bunch of investigations. Yeah, maybe because Donald Trump is the most corrupt president that this country has ever seen. These people are pathetic. I will give Mike Lawler just the tiniest bit of credit for showing up in person to do one of these town halls. But again, he had a huge list of rules that you had to comply by. And still, people showed up from his district. They were pissed off at what this administration is doing. They are worried about the authoritarian impulses of the administration. They're worried about the economy. They're worried about the illegal deportations. They're worried about the corruption. And they showed up to express their discontent with the Trump administration. And Mike Lawler might be good at talking around these issues, but he did not have any substantive critiques or answers to many of the questions at all. And I watched through the entire thing. And that was one of the main criticisms that I heard, is like, you're not answering my question. Like you're just kind of obfuscating, which has become a common tactic for these Republicans. They do not want to own up to what Donald Trump is doing, and they do not want to live in reality and therefore criticize their cult leader. So we will continue to keep an eye on this. These town halls, if nothing else, have been quite educational. And we are just seeing how people, even in their own coalition, even MAGA voters, are turning up to say, hey, this is not what I voted for, and this regime is ruining our country. So I will leave it there for now, guys. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. We are trying to build something here on the left that adequately pushes back against the right-wing media ecosystem that just ferments all of this MAGA brain rot day in and day out. So if you do like what I do here, please do remember to hit that subscribe button. It is free. And if you guys want to see how Trump's polling is falling off of a cliff as we near the 100-day mark, go ahead and watch that video on the screen now. Otherwise, I'll see you guys on the next one.